So in Smite 2, Duel is as it usually is. You want good wave clear, you want really fast buff clear, you want the ability to hold on and not lose in case you get behind, and of course you need to scale hard. And in my experience, this has been the most snowbally duel ever. Although I haven't even been playing Duel for a year, so yeah. Anyways, let's get it out of the way. These are the 4 characters that I like to see banned every single match. No surprise here, Aladdin, and then another no surprise here, Uller. So this will be ordered, so whoever is closer to the left-hand side of the screen, that's who I think is stronger. Alright, and then Poseidon, not a big surprise there if you've been playing Smite 2. And then this might surprise you. I think Anubis is ban-worthy every single game. That's just me. I haven't seen people banning him a lot, mostly because I already have him banned. But anyways, let's talk about them real quick. I think everyone knows why Aladdin's here. He just does way too much damage. Even his early game is pretty decent damage, but then when he gets like halfway through his build, he literally just one-shots anybody, and if he doesn't one-shot you, he pulls you into his ultimate and then resets his health, and then, yeah. It's pretty sad how much damage this guy does. It's literally just his numbers. I think once his numbers come down, he'll be totally fine. It's hard to kill him because you can just use his 3 whenever he wants, right? And he's got so much mobility and the damage, and you get the idea. It's crazy. As is Poseidon, and I think people kind of get it, right? People kind of get it why Poseidon is so strong. He can just build, like, whatever. If he wants to go burst, he can burst you. If he goes full spam CDR, he can do that. Attack speed, he can do that. Flex into defense with, like, Berserkers and Pharaoh's Curse, he can do that too. And so I think he's probably the strongest dual character overall. Just Aladdin's numbers are so crazy. But yeah, I think if you want to win, like, if you want to really just learn Duel and, like, win every single match, just play Poseidon. He clears buffs fast, clears wave fast, trades really well with his 2. Yeah, it's crazy. As is Uller. So I have been able to get Uller behind a few times, and I eked out 2 wins against Ullers. So I think this is a good spot for him here in 3rd place, because he can get behind. But if you don't win the game in a short amount of time, he will just scale. His Hydras will do like 400, another Hydra's 400, 1, 400, 3, 400. It's insane how much damage he does with Hydra's alignment. If you just let Uller farm even, and you don't end the game quickly, it's over. He's going to win. And Anubis, the reason for this is really just his passive, in my opinion. It's bad. It's bad how much lifesteal he has, the built-in protections as well, and I think the big kicker is his cooldowns, especially the cooldown on his ultimate. His ultimate is by far and away the highest scaling thing in the game, and it's 75 second cooldown at the start. It's ridiculous how good it is, and of course having that built-in CC immunity, amazing for matchups like Aladdin or Uller. If he goes for an axe and like it's too close, you can't dodge it, you could just ult him instead and blast half his life away with just the first tick of his ultimate. That's the big thing here. The burst start is 90% scaling, but actually I think you want to stack CDR on Anubis. Just try it out. It's crazy. So let's talk about Agni. So a big thing, like, you can do this on Poseidon and Anubis as well, is something called the Life Binder item. So this was supposed to be a supportive relic, not a relic, sorry, active. And basically it shoots out a projectile, and the projectile lands on first enemy god hit, and then the first ally who hits that enemy god will gain a shield and a heal. How are you supposed to trade into that in Duel? I don't know. So a lot of mages go at first. Obviously, Poseidon is the exception because he can kind of build whatever he wants. But, you could do it on Anubis, you could do it on Agni and stuff, and it makes them very tricky to fight into early. And you know what mages are really good at? Scaling. So if you can't beat them early, and they're wiping every single wave, wiping every single buff, it's a problem, right? So Agni will be moving down because I think his scaling just isn't really there. He needs to last a very long time for his scaling to really kick in. Same thing with Conquest, really. Same sort of issue he has in Conquest. So let's move on to Amy. I think Amma is like she's going to be probably the lowest A tier. I mean, she just does her thing, right? She clears everything pretty well with her 2. She trades well with her autos, and with Sunbeam Bow as well. Yeah, it's just not quite as impactful as other characters. There's only really one other auto attack warrior, Bellona, right? Bellona just does what she does, but a little bit better, especially when it comes to like later on in the match as well. On her, I think is criminally underrated. He might even be S. His aspect is so ridiculously strong. It's a lot like a Poseidon, like how Poseidon's 2 enables him to kind of build whatever he wants. Anher's aspect is a lot of the same way. You can actually go quite tanky on Anher and still just like shred through everything because of your aspect. Basically any melee character is going to lose against on her. Melee characters can't beat on her. Even Aladdin, I think, if you're forced to leave Aladdin open for whatever reason, because I think actually Bellona's a pretty good ban if you're playing hunters. If Aladdin's open, Anher's actually a pretty good option against him. Again, Anher's ultimate, it answers so many things. Mordred ultimate as well. Anubis Wrap, again, if you're too close to dodge it. Super duper strong with his aspect. I think without his aspect, he's probably like low A. So let's move on to Aphrodite. I'll put her like above Amma. When it comes time to like late game, I think Agni does outscale her, but like the healing with Lifebinder and whatnot, it's kind of insane. A lot of these mages, if you go like a full damagey build, you don't have to on Anubis obviously because his damage is crazy, but on like Agni, on Aphro and stuff, you can actually go Polynomicon and kill Lost Knight pretty effectively, I find. So if you like Aphrodite, you can play her in Duel. Just make sure you go in the Lifebinder buff, make sure you get like Gemma Focus and stuff. So let's move on to Ares, who I think is probably just C. Literally the only reason he's down here is just because he can't clear waves. That's the only problem with this god. I think actually hybrid basic attack, like attack speed hybrid Ares is actually not bad. It's actually not bad, boys. I sound like the craziest human being on planet Earth, but the scaling's pretty good. He does a lot of damage. It's hard to trade into him when he has his 2 on. The damage mitigation in the ult as well to block out things like Poseidon ultimate. Pretty good, but he can't clear waves. He can't get pressure. He's going to get out-farmed, and the scaling is eventually going to start falling off, and goodbye. I think Athena's probably B. I've won 2 matches. I've played 2 matches, won 2 matches with her, but I could kind of tell, like, because they were both against melee matchups, I could tell, like, if I'm against someone who's ranged. So, yeah, if I can't get my absolute full combo on somebody, unless I'm really far ahead for some reason, I'm going to lose it. But to be fair, she can actually clear the waves pretty well. You can just taunt the wave. I mean, especially if you're against like a mage or someone who's definitely going to out-clear you. Just 3 auto, 2 auto the wave. It'll clear the wave. Not terrible. Not a terrible character. Well, actually, you can go Bluestone. Actually, Bluestone's pretty good on her. Yeah, not awful. So Bacchus, actually, I did win pretty hard with Bacchus against Soul, I think it was. It was pretty crazy how much damage this guy was able to do with a strength-based build, like just going full like Hydras and stuff. But again, like you think about like, am I going to be able to do that to an Uller without dying? Probably not. And then obviously, of course, the scaling is really, really bad. That's the main reason why you go strength on like Athena, Bacchus, Ares. You go a bit of strength because it's 100% scaling on your basic attacks, whereas like your abilities are like 50% intelligence. Will always fall off when compared to the rest of the crew here. Anyways, Baron Samedi. I was actually a little disappointed by this guy. Yeah, I'll put him at the back of A, I think. Maybe even B. I was pretty let down. The main reason is because, like just think about, like, alright, I'm going to spoil it. Ra is definitely S tier, I think. So, you think about Ra, right? Like, he literally just ones the wave, and then he has 2-3 to trade with you. Poseidon can usually just 3 the wave and clear it, and then he has a 1-2 to trade with you as well. Or he can just, like, 1 the wave and then 3-2 to trade. Anubis, right? He could just 3 the wave and then wrap 1 to trade with you, right? And then just like Baron's here, and he has to use 1-2. He has to use 1-2 to clear the wave early to actually wipe the wave. That's the idea in Duel. You have to clear it as fast as possible so you can go do something else. And then he just has his 3 left to trade. His ultimate does a lot of work for him. I think it's like the defining feature of the character is that ultimate. And if you do go that Baron's Brew, right, you don't have Health Chalice, so you don't have as much built-in sustain, right? And Baron's Brew doesn't do as much damage as Health Chalice will heal, right? All right, let's move on to Bellona. Against Hunters, I think she's S tier, but I think, like, there's other gods in the game, right? So I think she's probably top of A. The reason for this is again, a lot like on her, build flexibility. That's the name of the game here. She can build like anything you want her, really, to build. Obviously, you want a lot of attack speed, but that's totally fine. Look at the attack speed items in the game. You got like stuff like Braggy and whatnot. And XE is insane for dealing with, because everyone buys protection in Duel. And you got the big dog, Stampede. That's something I'm going to be saying when it comes to some of these warriors. Stampede is crazy. If you don't know what Stampede is, it's a relatively new item. It's a physical protection item, and it's an active effect with a 90-second cooldown, and it gives you 60% movement speed, slow immunity, and attack speed, like 30% attack speed for 6 seconds. Blood. What's a hunter going to do with a Bellona with Stampede on, running at them with her 1? Yeah, you guys get the idea with Bellona, right? I mean, just, yeah, she can just... If someone builds attack speed against her and she gets to them, they can't really win, right? And her ultimate answers so many things, especially when it comes to like Poseidon, Kraken, and whatnot. So let's move on to CERN. I think it's pretty solid. The only thing that holds this character back, I think, is lack of inherent CC immunity. I think that's really it. Decent potential for an early kill. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair for him. Lost Knight is insane with his passive, right? He clears buffs insanely well for a hunter, so he's got a lot going on. There is just one hunter who really outclasses him. So Lord Chalkington, I have had really good times with Chalk. So it's hard for me to really judge him because every single game I've played and won as Chalk, it's been one of those like they have 6 at 5 minutes moments, right? So it's hard to say for sure how well he scales for me. So that's a little tricky. But I will say I think he's better than Amy. Maybe not better than Agni, because Agni has really good space control. Like if Agni gets a lead somehow, his space control is just insane. He's never going to let you do anything. So I'm pretty happy with that. So Cupid, yeah, he's pretty oppressive. The aspect is really good because it helps him like all-in trade people, and then Duel, you know, you're not going to get ganked in Duel, right? So you can actually like run up to people, use the heart bomb, get the heal and the shield from your heart bomb. It's pretty crazy, but it just depends on like how well the enemy can play around that, if they know what you're trying to do. Like for example, if they have a dash or a leap, they're just not going to give you the your heart bomb bonus ever. But regardless, like he has decent enough wave clear. The sustain is ridiculous on this character. So I think he's just above CERN because of all that. I think Cupid uses intelligence, like the intelligence hybrid build. I think he uses it a little bit better because he gets actually healing from it, not just bonus damage scaling like CERN does. Well, CERN gets the bonus heal on the green stance 1, right? So next up, Danza. This is the better Cernanos I was talking about. I think just the pressure he outputs, because it's more guaranteed pressure, because with Anher's aspect, you need to basic attack enemy gods, right, or the enemy god, to get that insane amount of attack speed. Whereas Danza Burrow just gets a bunch of extra basic attacks from his clones for free at any time. If he needs to hit the wave faster, he hits the wave faster. If he needs to kill a tower faster, he kills that. Lost Knight kills it faster. Whereas Anher only kills enemy gods faster. Danza without his clones, definitely way further down the tier list. But with the clones, with his aspect, I mean, it's the amount of pressure he puts out is pretty insane. The only thing is, like, I think about these scalers, right? I think they outscale him a little bit, but not to like an absurd amount to where like you wouldn't, Danza Burrow shouldn't be picked. I think so. Fen. Yeah, it's just the classic melee problem. Warriors have it pretty good because a lot of them are hybrid scalers, or in Bologna's case, like just blow out an entire class. But as far as like Fenrir goes, I'll do, yeah, Fen there feels about right. You can't use his aspect because you will not clear anything ever. I think I'd have eked, I think, like 2 wins with Fen, but they were melee matchups, right? Melee versus ranged right now is so insanely difficult. You need, like with Chalk, Amma, Bologna, like you need access to things like Sunbeam. You need access to things like Stampede, right? Which you can use on Fen, but it's nowhere near as effective, right? Because Fenrir just has damage and runs at you, whereas Bologna has block stacks. Chalk has his 50% damage mitigation ultimate. Amaterasu has the mitigations from her too, and also an insane CC immune ultimate. Whereas Fen's just an all-in machine who can't clear the wave, so I think he goes down there. Gleb, he's another one where just I think he is probably better than Fen. Yeah, I like Gleb over Fen. He has decent enough scaling to do like a full intelligence like CDR build. Perhaps a life binder as well. He might be able to run that. It's just a matter of like, eventually he stops being able to clear. Eventually he stops being able to cheese a Lost Knight out with Polynomicon and stuff. Like eventually he just falls off, and then that's just it. So yeah, that again, same sort of problem. Eventually they fall off, right? So Hades I think is all right. Yeah, I would say he's probably better than Baron. Yeah, I think just his wave control is better than Baron's, but again, he can't really trade all that well. And then you look at most of the good scaling gods, like Ulrich can jump out of it. Aladdin has like 50 ways to jump out of it, and if he times it right, he can time it so that he ults you as you're coming out of Hades ult, and you can't leap away in time. Yeah, so that's pretty bad. Yeah, I think overall that's fair. It's just because I think Amma has a little bit more pressure early, Chalk more pressure early, Agni better scaler. Yeah, So Hecate was a lot of fun. I only played her once, but she was a blast. But I don't think she's that great. I think her Lifebinder game is actually pretty good, but just no inherent scaling. You have to kind of get lucky going into a magical matchup so that your 3 actually blocks stuff. But I do think she's at the top of here. She's a lot of fun. Probably going to be the best of B tier, but there's just not really a reason to play her when you think about... I mean, maybe even Afro and Baron can come down. Yeah, I think like Afro and Baron can come down. Yeah. Hecate's scaling is insane, but her ultimate's a little bit too easy to play around in Duel. It's much harder to deal with in Conquest, for example. Speaking of difficult to deal with, let's talk about Hercules. Yeah, it's just... he's another one of these examples where we really build whatever you want. It's fine, as long as you don't build intelligence, right? Literally just build whatever you want on this guy, and he's pretty crazy. Y'all see better than on her. One of my few wins against Ullers has been as Hercules, because like so what you should do, if you don't know, play to get your transformation off. Don't play to get a pluck push. Don't just play for that. Play to get a transformation and just run at the enemy. That's what you should do. It's almost impossible to beat a transformed Hercules until like later on in the match, right? Once you get your scaling going. But even so, like if you're a hunter, he's grabbing Stampede and running at you when he's transformed. You're not going to beat him. He doesn't suck against the mages, but he does have to eat a lot of poke early game to deal with them. But, there's a lot of bush cheese you can do with Hercules as well, and really lock people down and make them hate life. Pendulum Blade, by the way. Pendulum Blade, that's all I'm going to say. All right? Just, yeah, get your transformation off before you ult, and you win. That's the idea with Hercules. Hercules, guys, coming soon. So, Izanami, I mean, Iza's good, for sure. But I'm not quite fully on board with her, just because her ultimate and her 3 are just not that great. But you think about the character, though. You have built-in penetration, you have insanely good clear, but the thing is, like, if you're playing against another good dual character, they have insane clear. They're going to match it, right? And it's probably going to be better than your clear early on in the match, right? So it's easy to get Izanami behind, and that's her main weakness, I think, although her scaling is absolutely ridiculous. Like she's one of the best auto tech scalers in the game. So if you can just hold on with her, I think she's pretty good. And she does do so much damage that she can build like double defense and actually still function, especially when it comes to something like Berserker Shield. So speaking of which, Jingwei, so her early game is just really, really terrible. But you want to, you could probably already guess, if you're good at Duel, you already know this, abuse her passive so much. Just abuse it to high heaven, and you will probably stay in the game just fine, and scale fairly well. But yeah, she just exudes zero pressure early, a lot like Izanami, but I do think like she's a little easier to keep in the match, right? So like keep yourself relevant level and gold wise, itemization wise. So I think that's a fair spot for her. So Khepri, there is a little bit of sauce with his aspect. Where you can go like attack speed, basic attack based Khepri, but yeah, I think he's still probably the worst character in Duel, because his clear, it really just, he can barely, if you go full int, you can barely full clear the wave with a fully maxed 2, and then even once the game goes long enough and the minions get tanky enough, you stop being able to clear. That can't be a thing in Duel. You're not going to win a Duel match if you can't clear. So sit around under Tower Simulator, Mr. Kukulkan. I think better than I don't know if better than Athena. I mean, he can War of Attrition very, very well. Very similar to Hecate, where it's literally just like, okay, you can't really kill her, right? Or him in this case. You can't really kill him because he's just sitting so far back, right? But you can push him in a little bit. He really needs to get greedy with it and get a lot of damage on early on so he can clear waves as soon as possible with just his NATO, so that he can move around the map with his 2, poke you with his 1, and whatnot, and get that build going, get a good poly build going. That's really his only ticket. My one game as I played against a few Cuckoos. My one game as Cuckoo was actually against Captain Twig on his signature Danzaburo duel in Duel, right? And actually almost came back ish, right? Like if you get the scaling going, yes, he does really start to hit really, really hard. But his ultimate is a big question mark, and you can just buy Aegis in Duel. If you have better clear than him early, like for example Poseidon, Anubis and stuff, you just go Aegis, and his big time ultimate never hits you. So Loki, I mean, It really just depends who you're against. This is a really good character for going against the mages. Maybe not the super duper OP mages, but a lot of the mages Loki can actually kind of handle. I think that's a big plus. His clear is pretty decent, but again, he just can't. Yeah, he just can't really clear, right? Like, it's not one of these guys who just can't clear. So maybe we split up Afro and Baron here. Look at these guys. Like sure, Loki in a vacuum can kill these guys really hard. Well, his scaling is crazy. His scaling is absolutely absurd. So I can see him killing Poseidon, Uller, maybe not Anubis because of the prots. So okay, I'll put him more like there. How about that? Because, like, again, scaling is also big in Duel. He can just put his 2 on the wave and it'll clear the wave. So, yeah, I guess. Fine. I guess he's playable. Medusa, I think a little overrated. I think she lacks the utility of someone like a Cupid. Does very similar things to Cernunnos, but her buff clear is not quite as good. I'll put her like here. I think that's good. She can still definitely like one-shot people early on. But like you think about, like a Cupid's just gonna war of attrition you and beat you. A Cernunnos is again gonna just like whack his 2 on the wave, clear a little bit faster than you, and then like go do a buff way faster than you could, right, and get back to the wave quicker. That's just how I view it. I mean, her ultimate's really good. She's a really good hybrid scaler. So that's all true as well. I mean, it's really just a toss-up. It's really just like who, like between these guys, like Anhur, Cupid, Cern, Medusa, it's just like who hits more basic attacks. That's really all it comes down to, because they're all very similar. But I do trust like Cernunnos is clear, Anhur's build flexibility, Cupid's self-sustain to be a little bit better. So Mordred is a tricky one. The thing is, against melee gods, there's not a lot they can do against Mordred, and especially when it comes to like gods who can't clear the wave very well. They're also not very good into Mordred. This is of course with Mordred's aspect. Don't play Mordred without the aspect, please. So he is really tricky. But the thing is, if you can play at a range, if you're any character who plays at a range, the aspect loses a lot of its potency. So, and his scaling is just kind of mid. It's just okay. I mean, the scaling on his ultimate's crazy, right? But again, it's like a Fenrir situation where like everyone knows what the ultimate does and what he's trying to do with it. So you just play accordingly, right? You build accordingly to deal with it. So, I mean, he can force people to build beads, though. If it's a bad matchup for them, he forces people to build beads or like suffer the wrath of like getting half hit by his ultimate and then chased down for the rest of the turn. Like I would trust Chalk in a ranged matchup, like a proper ranged matchup, like against Poseidon, Ra, and then any of the hunters. I would trust Chalk a little bit more, just so he can like one shot the wave and walk away. Right, like Mordred can't really do that. He's going to be eating like a bunch of poke from Poseidon or hunter basic attacks over and over. So Hua Mulan is a tricky one for sure. She's good. She's definitely good. I struggle to see her being as nasty as like Herc or Bellona late game. Yeah, I think she's probably pretty far up. She does very similar things to Chalk, but I like Chalk's the way Chalk's 2 works with the protections. Like, it's so hard to fight into Chalk early because of that, and it's hard to like abuse a Chalk early because of that, right? Because he just plays around making sure he stacks his 2 all the way up. So yeah, like it's really hard to truly get a lead early as Mulan because of, you know, the way Mulan works with her passive. Like, her abilities are insane once they get the passive levels in them, and it's really hard to do that without like losing waves, losing buffs, and then getting behind, right? She can make a comeback, but I don't know. I don't really see it all that much, especially when it comes to like scaling. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I trust Amma's, the simplicity of Amma just holding left click on you. I trust that a little bit more. Alright, so A's getting a little big, so we can probably move Bacchus down. I think that's fair. You know, Geb over Fenrir, that doesn't look right. And actually, I'm going to put Geb below Bacchus there. Yeah, I mean, Fen can just run people down, right? So I'll put him over Cuckoo. If Cuckoo's early game was a little bit better, I would like it more. So Neef, Neith with her aspect is actually a problem, but I think it's a little more it's actually a very similar idea to Anhur, where now she gets like way more attack speed from her passive, right? So the game is here, like, you can kind of build what you want because you gain so much attack speed from your passive that like you're going to be proccing kins so fast that, you know, it makes their head spin, right? And you get like instant executioner as well, like full executioner. So I think her wave control it's like on par with Hades, but she shreds better than Hades. Probably better than Amma, but I think because of, like, literally, in some situations, yes, Neith ult can work. It's just, like, if you're not against a melee character, how's your ult supposed to do anything ever? But I don't know. You really trust? You really think people are just gonna, especially when it comes to people who have built-in CC immunity on their ultimates, right? They're just gonna ult your ult and then you're screwed, right? So yeah, it can be tricky. I'm just looking specifically at Izanami Neith. I mean, if Neith goes into her ultimate, Izanami can just ult her back. She can't cancel it in time, I don't think, to backflip out of it, right? So Izanami just starts pounding on you, and then she forces you out, right? So, yeah, I think. So Nem is good. Nem's a weird one. She can War of Attrition very well. If you don't, sorry, I've used it like 5 times. What does that mean? It just means like she just outlasts you in a fight, right? And I think Nemesis does that really well. She's another god where you can build whatever you want, whatever is needed at the very moment. She could do. So I think I'll put her, yeah, above Agni. I think is good. I think just straight up hunters. Eventually, they just get to a point where they just auto attack her down and shred her down with kins, and that's kind of the end of that. She can use like Stampede though. You know, you also think about like trying to dive a Poseidon, dive a Anubis and stuff, and like try and dive on an Uller. Like you get an Uller's face, he's just gonna axe combo you, and if he doesn't kill you, he leaps away, and you're 1 HP, so you have to back off anyways, and he's like full HP, right? So, yeah, I think that's fair. I need to play Mulan a little bit more because people seem to value her. I just really haven't seen enough, right? Because I think she just loses too hard early. I already mentioned that, but yeah, Nuwa again. A lot like Kukulkan, I think a little bit better than Cuckoo. Better than Hecate because she has like PvE stuff. I think better than Aphrodite. Again, it really just... Actually, you know, the minions are extremely strong. I think the minions really give her some sauce. But she is a heavy scaling character. You know, she's going to lose the early game. She can clear, for sure. She can just sit back and clear. But she is going to lose out on buffs and whatnot, so I think that hurts the character. But I think actually in that sense, she's better than Baron. And then Loki, Nuwa, actually quite similar in terms of their scaling. Odin's awful. Really one of the worst characters in the game right now. He can't clear the wave with just his 3, so he's bad, period. Yeah, if you're in a ranged matchup, you can't win. Yeah, it's bad. And Phantom Shell is on like a 1-second cooldown, I think. I don't know why they kept buffing that. I guess because the Emojo was so good in Conquest, right? And Odin was really good for a while there. But yeah, he can't clear waves. His buff clear is okay. Genuinely, I think he actually uses the cringy hybrid attack speed build. I think he actually uses it pretty well. I think he's actually quite good with it. And I think that's the way you should go if you want to play him. But then again, his cooldowns are longer than... Marathon, I don't know, I don't have a good one for that. So Pele's weird, right? Because her passive's insane, right? It should be insane in Duel, but the thing is, the scaling on her 1 is just not good enough, and the cooldown is too long. That's what I've found, and it's really hard to get enough CDR plus a lifesteal item plus a defense item on Pele. So that's been a bit of an issue for me playing this character. I have won on her a few times, but yeah, just. It's really, really hard for her to not be predictable. Which one of these characters is just going to let themselves be ulted, right? Well, Hercules can, but he'll just out-trade her. And there's like, it's just rough for her. She's not all the way down here, don't worry. I'll put her like top of V. I trust her more than a Mulan, I think, to win. But obviously Mulan, you know, has decent scaling. But yeah, she just doesn't clear fast enough. Her buff clear is okay, but her Lost Knight is actually quite slow. Yeah. Raw S tier, definitely. Insane Lifebinder usage. Use his aspect, by the way. You want to use his aspect. He can aim his ultimate now. He heals himself for 1 trillion with his ultimate now. He's healing himself all the time with his 3 on. It's ridiculous. Very unfun to play against. If you try and jump this guy, he lifebinders you and 3s himself, and then he just has all of his health back, and you can't beat him. So it's really, really hard to deal with. Yeah, he can actually go like the attack speed build, the super cringy like Berserker Shield build. He can do that. I don't know how good that would be in Duel though. But the thing is, he's just it's so easy for him to just one-shot waves, go do buffs, and if you try and invade him, he'll out-trade you with the lifebinder plus his 3. So tricky dicky, bro. Tricky dicky. Sobek, I'll put him like there. He's just so hard to kill. But Hunters will beat him. Hunters will 100% beat him. But when it comes to actually the mages, they do actually kind of struggle into him. Like the Lifebinder, he doesn't care about the Lifebinder stuff very much. He's got really nasty poke over and over and over again. He's safe with his dash. He has an execute on his ult, which doesn't come up very often, but he does have an execute on his ultimate. His ultimate is tricky to deal with for a lot of characters. A lot like Kukulkan, he doesn't just lose, right? He's really hard to just straight up lose with. You can stay in the game for as long as you want, but the thing is, like, he's not too great at doing like Lost Night and stuff. He's not that great at pushing towers, but you can actually go some attack speed on him to help alleviate that. But on the whole, yeah, he's probably not very good. But the built-in anti-heal does come up. It's quite good. So Soul, I think she's just too easy to kill. That's really all there is. Other than that, she's a good duel character. I think she's worthy of an A. Yeah, I think her, like, right there is good. She, again, very flexible with the build. She can actually, because of her passive, giving her so much extra damage, she can actually go a decent amount of defense and still actually, you know, be able to do Lost Night, be able to trade, be able to push down Phoenixes and stuff. So yeah, I think she's pretty good, especially another one where it's like the itemization is the big key here. But yeah, again, a little too easy to get behind early, I would say. Susano, a very similar idea. I mean, he can kill people, but that's all he can do. His clear is not very good. It is a bit of a low-key situation where, like, if you do get a full combo on someone late game, they probably die. But I'm thinking about like a Ra or an Anubis or, you know, a Poseidon, Uller. These guys just turn on you and you can't do anything because you have less damage and you need to be in melee range to do it. So they hit their wrap, they hit their axe. You get whirlpooled for free. All this stuff, you know what I mean? His one cooldown's too long. His clear's not good enough. But he, again, if you're in a melee matchup, melee versus melee, he's not bad. I'll put him like there. I think is pretty good. I think that's pretty good. Yeah, because again, he can kill people. So Thana with the aspect. Thana with no aspect is probably like down here because he can't clear. The clear is okay when he has aspect. But again, he just gets kited, right? That's all that really happens. It can get pretty crazy, like health wise. But the thing is, he doesn't have a conquest jungle to go off and kill, right? So he actually can't get that much of his passive value off because he's just going to get poked every single wave, right? But I think that Cheese is good enough to put him above Susano, I guess. Yeah, I just don't really see it. Probably, well, the thing is, if you go an auto attack based build, like attack speed based build, he's not going to do enough damage to clear the wave. Anyways, Mori, yeah, not very good. It's just because she just doesn't have damage early. That's really all there is to it. She doesn't have damage early, so you can turn into your opponent, right? But the problem with Morrigan is you're always going to be behind because she has no pressure early, so that you turn into the enemy god, but you're a worse version of the enemy god because you're a lower level. That, to me, that's it. Sign that off. That is literally all there is to the character. She just doesn't clear fast enough, so there you go. Thor, actually not terrible. I would say he's probably the best in the melee assassins, just because of his wave clear. So I'll put him like right above Loki, and his late game combo is pretty ridiculous. Like, if for some reason you get ulted in the late game, unlikely, right? But if you're like if you're a squishier god, you're probably gonna get one shot. To be honest with you, yeah, I think it's pretty nutty in the cutty. And of course he clears waves for free. Buff clear is really good. Lost Night is decent. He actually uses attack speed pretty well. So if you're against a hunter, you can actually go Stampede on Thor. It's not bad. But again, he does get outscaled, like most of the assassins. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. But he's better than you would think. That's what I'll say about him. Also better than you would think. Yamoja actually I'll put like above Mori there. And that's simply because I've tried two builds on her, attack speed and Polynomicon. So those are the two things I've tried on her. They're actually both not bad. I prefer the Poly one because basically, so the reason she's so far down here, because seriously, she can solo like anybody. But the problem is you need to have your ultimate up. You have to. And the problem is if you go Sands of Time to make sure you have your ultimate up every single time, you don't have Conduit Gem and you can't clear. So that's the problem. And you absolutely have to have your ultimate up when you fight. If you don't know what Yamoja ultimate does in this case, but why you're using it, right? It's because it gives you really fast Omi regeneration, so you can just spam abilities on people. So what you can actually do to get like a combo started is if you hit your one stun and then pop your ultimate and then flick them back with the 3 and then stun and then auto and then slow and then stun and then auto and then yeah. You can really put people in a blender and just murder their face off. And you could actually do a very similar thing with attack speed. I like the attack speed build on her actually because it kind of keeps her in the game, right? Like she can like poke with auto attacks and stuff while she's clearing. So she's a very flawed character, but I think she could take a lot of people by surprise. But again, if she's against like one of the S tiers, yeah, she's not going to win. Similar to that is Emir. I'll put Emir like right below Fen, because I think Fen's mobility saves the day for him. And I think Athena does what both of them like to do, but better. He does a lot of damage with his autos, but he needs to be in people's faces to do it, which means you're going to eat a life binder, which means you're going to get kited, and so on and so forth. You guys get it. In a melee matchup, Emir is not bad. He can really club people to death early on and get a good lead going. But again, like if you go crit, they get enough defense to where you can't kill them instantly, and then they just outscale you. That's all that really happens with Emir. And if you're against a ranged matchup, you're never going to get in on somebody. Nobody with their monitor on is going to let you walk up and wall, get a freeze, and start pounding on you with the 2, right? With the passive. So yeah. So when it comes to Zeus, I don't know. He kind of does what Thanos just don't want to do, right? Like just one-shot people over and over. But he can do it for longer, scales better, but also a pretty free kill early. Really depends on how it's played out, right? And actually, since assassins aren't very good, it's actually pretty good for him that he doesn't just get like one shot from a bush or something. But yeah, you think about gods like, for example, like melee bullies like Chalk or even like Amaterasu or something. For most of the game, they're probably just gonna run at him, right? So yeah, I think probably down here. But the damage is crazy. He doesn't clear as well as Baron, which is kind of crazy to say. But I think the scaling is kind of crazy. But he doesn't have the sauce of the Nuwa minions, right? But the flexibility of builds is actually, yeah, it is actually probably better than Nuwa. So I'll put him like above Nuwa, I guess. Simply because like he can kind of build whatever he needs. But the thing is, he's very easy to get behind, easy to read as well. But I think that the detonate stun actually does a lot for him. It's actually a very positive thing for him in Duel. So. If you play the stun right, you can actually stop certain abilities, stop certain combos and stuff like that. But on the whole, yeah, probably not going to live long enough to actually get all that off. It really just depends on what they build. If they build too greedy, like they go too much damage, and you're able to get like a Berserkers online or something, a Berserkers or a Stampede's good on them. Then yeah, if they get too greedy, they can definitely lose because your damage is your scaling is just off the charts. But it's not like an Anubis where you have like protections and lifesteal on top of that. You just have insane scaling. Period. End of story. And I think his cooldowns are longer than Anubis's as well. So. Yeah, I think that's it for the Duel tier list. Again, I think Bellona is S against Hunters, but overall, I think because I feel like the Life Miner mages and stuff, the Anubis, Poseidon, and Ra especially are so strong. I think she just tops A. Other than that, I think that's it for this tier list. Let me know what you guys think, and thank you guys for watching.